New season, new challenges, legendary track. You can't ask for much better when it comes to the start of a season. It is a souped upgrade on 2 seasons ago in the Formula Ford Championship. This now is Formula 3, and that means that the downforce becomes heavier, the speeds become faster, and the element of control is higher. And we come to a circuit which has been notorious as a track that needs every single wit about you on the road to Liège-Bastogne-Liège. This is the circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, and this is your RTA Virtual Motorsport F3 Championship Fixed, and it is live on the Global SimRacing Channel. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone watching around the world for today's coverage. My name is Jake Sperry. Alongside me in the commentary booth for this one is Ossian Puhaka, and on the cameras today in the director's chair is Daniel Costello. Providing the cameras is Dougie Beard. But the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, it has had a number of different iterations. It's had a few tweaks here and there over the years, but it is now a full course. It is now a brilliant course. It is the great all-rounder when it comes to motorsport racing. Let's get an understanding of what makes this circuit so incredible with our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Spa-Francorchamps. Less than an hour's drive east from the German border, this Belgian track has come to define racing for many different eras in the sport. It's no wonder it continues to entrance drivers when you look at the stats. The 7 kilometers over the course of a lap includes more than 330 feet in elevation change as it weaves its way through the Ardennes forest. Packed into this is 19 turns, some of which are considered among the most famous in the world of racing. Corners like La Source and Blanchemont have been on the lips of drivers for decades. But by far the most notorious is Eau Rouge and Rétillon. Typically referred to in name by just the first section, it dips low and swings left, then compresses and climbs to the right up a massive hill. The sequence ends with a completely blind crest that sweeps to the left and leads onto the incredibly long Kemmel Straight. The bravery required to be fast through there will pay off towards one of the most popular passing spots at Lacombe. Eau Rouge is exemplary of the rest of the circuit though. Most of the turns are incredibly fast and many include much of that signature elevation change. As jaw-dropping as the track is, you have to remember that this is the modern truncated layout. The old one, raced until 1979, was 14 kilometers in length, yet carried an average speed of 150 miles per hour. Present-day safety measures do cut down on the danger, but even in recent history, the circuit has proven deadly. It's clear why this track continues to be revered and respected by racers the world round.
A circuit that I think it's very safe to say is asking the question of what hasn't run here compared to what has run here. This does everything, and it does everything well. Ozzy, you look at this circuit, and it is iconic. Every single corner has a weight of history behind it.
It is, Jake. Good evening, everybody, from my behalf as well. It's, well, to start it off, people know it mostly from Formula 1 racing, and they know it from GT racing. That's the 2 big disciplines. But the weight of history, it's heavy on this circuit. Every corner you go around, you have at least one moment you remember from that corner. You start the lap by going through La Source, and then you run up that hill, run up that wall. But how does it feel with Formula 3? That's a different question. To me, I always kind of disliked running the slower Formula classes here. It doesn't quite feel right. You're topping out at 250 on the Kemmel Straight in the draft, 240 kilometers an hour without the draft. You're going through Blanchemont flat out and it feels like something's lacking. But don't get me wrong, when you have 20 cars around you, when you're going 3 wide, maybe 4 wide down the Kemmel Straight, nothing is lacking. It's an experience unlike anything else, and it's something where you have tremendous races usually. it's gonna be a draft battle for sure. But in that middle sector, there is skill and there is bravery to be called for, and I think we're gonna see an excellent example as these boys from RTA Motorsport take on the track today.
All the way from about Ravage, Bruchel's corner, all the way through Double Gauche and heading over towards Fagnes, and then the run along through Campus and to the Curverpool, Frere and Stavelot corners. That's where the race will be won and lost, not necessarily on the long straights where all the drafting battle goes through. It's about, can you stay in range? That's what this track brings to the table. What will also be brought to the table is an understanding that they come from a closed-wheeled formula to an open-wheeled formula from last season over to this season. And there is actually a slight difference to how the format is going to run tonight. Your graphic says from last season, 15 minutes race 1, 10 minutes race 2. No. Flip that now. It's going to be 10 minutes race 1. It's going to be 15 minutes race 2. And the top 8 will reverse for 20 minutes in race number 3. So there is a lot of work that is going to have to be done today, and it will mean that these races, first one's going to go in the blink of an eye here, Aussie, but the issue that you're going to have is, well, hang on a minute, this race is going to feel longer and longer, and actually it's going to feel like for the drivers that they have more time with each race to make the moves they need to.
Yeah, you both have time and you don't have time. It's the issue with Spa is that, well, it's not an issue, it's more like the interesting thing with Spa is that the race starts right from the get-go. You have those draft battles, you have those positions, but with so little time in each race, even when you have the feature race, the main event later on in the evening, that's gonna be only 20 minutes. So it's gonna be there or thereabouts 9 laps, 10 laps that they'll be driving here on this track, closer to 9 laps actually with these lap times. So you only have 9 chances at the end of the Camel Straight, and you have to make sure that you're in the right position right from the get-go. You don't lose that draft train right from the get-go. As we're watching the qualifying times now, Sean McClements, one of the fastest drivers in this series, right now in 4th place, and I'm about to put in another lap time. Let's talk race strats later on, Jake. Let's look at these qualifying times for now.
Yep, so 2:25, and because we're in heat qualifying, anybody who doesn't set a time after, or sets a time after 2:10 will not be able to go again. So McClements will be one of the last drivers. It is Jason Smith, who is currently the fastest, and by a long way, by 0.6 of a second at the moment. On board with Rory O'Shea, the reigning champion when it came to the GR86, is 6th fastest at the moment, rushing through Fagnes and over towards Campus Corner, descending down the hill here through the right, and Stavelot immediately follows afterwards. He uses a lot of the apron there on the outside, and now he's looking to try and get that power up the hill on the run to one of the most fearsome corners out in racing. But one of the corners, Aussie, that you look at and go, it is not as scary as it used to be. It's flat out, almost maybe a light lift in these cars, but it's still enthralling every time you go through it.
Yeah, if this was rally driving, my pace note would say flat, and it would be a confident flat. It wouldn't even be like flat maybe. It would be flat out with these cars. But with worn tires, another car beside you, it becomes a whole different beast. That exit curb is still something to watch out for. Jason Smith here not putting a respectable lap time in. One driver, as we're watching these drivers go through the last laps, one driver I would like us to pay attention to at this moment in time, car number 12 in position number 3, Connor Melia. He's a newcomer to this series, hasn't driven in the last 2 seasons, wasn't there in GR86s, wasn't there in Formula 4s, right now sitting in top 3, ahead of drivers like Sean McClements, ahead of drivers like Jordan Kelly. That is impressive.
It is. Peter McCann, a 9th position. Looked like he may have improved, but that doesn't work. Alexander Mielchen is now trying to find an opportunity here to make some times. And if Mielchen can find the opening opportunity then to move up, 17th position is all right. There's 28 drivers here today. You'd like to be up a little bit further than that. Crosses the line. Does not improve, sorry. So does find himself slightly on the wrong foot for that. 10 seconds remaining on the clock. I'm not sure if Piotr Rogosz is going to get over the line to set that final time. Will rush through the final chicane. Is going to be just short So the time will expire and the grid will form. So this is going to be how they stack at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps for the opening race of 24 races this season. 8 race meetings. It's Jason Smith, dominant in qualifying, 2:10.334. We'll have Ronan Doherty alongside for company. Connor Mellier and Sean McClements are 3rd and 4th, with Jordan Kelly 5th and Rory O'Shea in 6th position. Brian McCarthy starts 7th with Sean McGoldrick in 8th position. And to add to the Mook flair, Peter McCann is the 3rd straight Mook in 9th place, with Ian May rounding out the top 10.
Indeed, and in 11th position you got Lawrence Dusosba starting alongside Dylan McClements. Then it's Graham Melvin and Wing Fei Chan rounding out row number 7. Amjamal Gandour, Simon Hutchings, row number 8, Alexander Milchen and Andrew Murphy in row number 9, and Cem Kulbeinsen and Sean Hegarty in row number 10.
14 rows here today at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. Albert Reid and Rich Murphy will have row 11 with Simran Takar and Robin Truswell. Then on row 12, Piotr Rogoch only gets 25th ahead of Sebastian Scholten, with Phelan Pritchard in 27th and Eric Couillard rounding out the field in 28th with a 2:17.335, a full 2.6 seconds off the pace of Phelan Pritchard in 27th position. But as the drivers now populate the grid, they will know they are in full force right now. 34 degrees is a perfect track temperature. Let's get the engine notes rising. It's the first race of the season. Green flag in the air, and we get ourselves underway here at Spa. Smith immediately covers off to the fenders, immediately driver in the background. 1, 2, 3 in the wall, in the back, in through turn 1. Perfect at the source for Jason Smith, who turns around. He spins, 2 more go around on the inside. Doherty caught up in it as well, and all of a sudden, at the front of the field, from nowhere, it's Sean McClements.
Sean McClements got an excellent launch. You got Andrew Murphy, you got Peter McCann, drivers involved in that first corner incident. Morris Bell, Peter Rogos is off in Eau Rouge, but look at this side by side for the lead.
It is for the lead. We expect to see this now, as it is Rory O'Shea, the reigning champion, who's going to look to go through. It's 4 wide behind as they go through in the middle of the pack. Fantastic stuff as they go through. That was around Chan Wing Fei, around Jamal Gandour, about 4 wide. Lawrence de Sosa's made great progress in the start. He's already up into 6th position as they now rise, or descend, sorry, I should say, from the top of the hill down Bruchel's corner and towards the speaker's corner. Leader of Potato Nation is finding a great start to this race. He's already clear of Jamal Gandour, who's there behind him, the 961 in the Simsa Esports car.
He is, meanwhile, news from 2nd place. So Rory O'Shea and Sean McGoldrick had a bit of contact in the Bruxelles corner, so we'll see how that affects them as we are watching back there from the 6th place. And Dussos was going to go for a move to the inside, but Jordan Kelly fends him off for now. And this is now a very crucial point in the race where they have to trust Jordan Kelly, and they have to trust Jordan Kelly's pace in order to catch up to the queue in front, because there's going to be draft trains, and there's already a big gap between positions number 4 and 5. That is 1.2 seconds. They have to work together in order to catch up those places, and you can see Lawrence just going past Jordan Kelly, allowing at this point in time Jamal Gandour as well to make that position. How about Jamal Gandour? He started 15th.
He did. He's had an incredible start to this race. Ian May now finds himself on the wrong side of it. Chan Wing Fei goes in, bang! Up and over the top, takes the rear wing away. Jordan Kelly goes skyward and finds himself in a huge amount of trouble. And look at it now. It's a malfunction at the junction as everybody tries to scamper through.
That's an absolute disaster for those guys. First lap, no need, but I think a lot of them were just caught out by, frankly, a lot of them were caught out by the draft heading into that corner. We'll see if we see a replay of that later on, but just gonna tell you off screen, I think it was a little bit of miscommunication between Gandour and Kelly that led to the accident, as we are watching them go side by side through a Russian lap 2, because why not?
Oh, brilliant stuff. Hutchings, McCarthy, Albert Reid looking to pass the Braun spec car out there at this moment in time. Will he have enough draft on the straight? I think he will at the moment, and these small little packs are starting to form, and just in front of that as well, side by side, Chan Wing Fei finds himself behind Graham Melvin, so he will have to sit and be patient as they go through. Sean McClements, your race leader, Rory O'Shea in second, Sean McGoldrick in third, and younger brother Dylan McClements in fourth position. So it's pretty much the main players of the game from last season, with the exception of Sean McClements, in position at the front of this field right now.
Yeah, you look at Sean McClements, and he's been up there for a long time in these championships. Sean McClements, okay, sure, he didn't drive the whole season at GR86, but when he did, he picked up 2 victories from the one weekend he was participating in. He was tied in third place at the Formula Ford season, and he had an excellent pace, grabbed a race win there too. So he is one of those drivers that you're used to seeing up at or near the front in this series. Not necessarily the absolute fastest driver, but one of them. And he has a chance now to get away from Rory O'Shea and from Sean McGoldrick as well, because those are his main challengers, and those 2 guys are gonna have to work together. These guys, they're not working together, they're driving, they're racing.
Chan Wing-Fei and Simon Hutchins side by side through Blanchimont as they go through. Ian May we're on board with now on the back of this train, is trying to move up through this group, through Colbainson, through the likes then of Brian McCarthy. He'll make the pass on Chem Colbainson. Mistake from McCarthy through the corner. He's going to struggle with about 3 boatloads of oversteer, and just like that, it's going to bring more back through. Graham Melvin with the fastest lap then of the race. They charge almost 3 wide into the last horse hairpin. Colbainson sees May runs wide, and he'll have an opportunity now to try and attack back down the hill, over past the endurance pits, the old pits around this circuit, and then Arouge and Radion. Will they decide to race amongst themselves? Oh, you bet they do. Side by side up the hill on the old scan, and it stays as it is. Advantage now goes to Brian McCarthy, who will have the draft and the run.
Wow, so you see those Braun liveries out there near the front. Well, I hope those guys brought their Braun pants for this one, because running side by side through Arouge Radion, it's no easy feat. You don't really see much, and you just have to trust the driver beside you to leave you enough room to account for the way that the car lives as it compresses against the hill, and then it gets lights over the brow of the hill at Radion, and there's a little bit of contact between Colbainson and the car behind him. So that's something that they have to account for. That was Ian May who made a bit of contact, got a little bit sideways through Bruxelles, but thankfully it's a low-speed corner, no harm done there just yet, and it's an excellent battle between those guys, extending all the way to 6th place. And Hutchins, who is now leading this little bit of a queue. Simon Hutchins is just looking behind, trying to get away, but he's got Albert Reid and Chan Wing-Fei for company.
Look, Alexander Mielke, who is on the back of this group, did a 2:12.9 on that last lap. The guy in front of him, Brian McCarthy, did a 2:16.8. 3.9 seconds lost by battling, and it shows that you have to pick and choose your moments in a field like this. Chan Wing-Fei will once again find himself in a scrap with Albert Reid. Look out! Oh, bang! Huge accident into the barriers of Blanchimont.
Oh my god, and that's just one of those, once again, miscommunication between those 2 guys heading into the corner. They were going side by side, Chan on the inside and Albert Reid on the outside, and as they head to the first part of the Blanchimont corner, I think what happened there is that Chan Wing-Fei just got a little bit greedy, squeezed out Albert Reid a little bit too much on the outside, and they just made a slight bit of netcode contact, but that was always going to be an accident, and there was a hook on the rear wheel that can happen with open wheelers too. Just essentially Albert Reid hooking Chan Wing-Fei around, and both of them ending up on the outside wall at the Blanchimont corner. Both of them on the pit lane, very, very unfortunate, but just goes to show you that even though this track is wide, there's a lot of room for racing, but you can't take away all of the room. All the time you have to leave a space.
You absolutely do. There is Sean McClements. He leads this field by 1.2 over Rory O'Shea, who has fended off the charge of Sean McGoldrick and now is looking to push forward and find a bit more out there. I just want to point out, Phelan Pritchard started 27th in this race, and in 8 minutes, less than that, 7.75 minutes, he's 10th.
Wow, and you can see Albert Reid there once again having completed his pit stop. He is back out there on the track, not on the positions he wants to be, but still has a chance to maybe get a couple of points here, depending on what happens in front. And if this what has happened so far here is anything to go by, then anything can happen in front of them. Still a lot of great draft battles. Now, I have a question about Sean McClements and his car, because you saw on the rear wing of his car, the car number 10, there was a Team DDR painted. Is that a Dance Dance Revolution reference, or is he East German? Because you always have to ask the question.
I believe it's the former rather than the latter. I do believe that it is more of a Dance Dance Revolution style that he has got out there. And he has certainly been mastering the moves to get himself up to the front. His last lap will start at this moment in time as he rounds through the final chicane and will cross the line to bring that into perspective. O'Shea still has McGoldrick behind him. Peter McCann is looking for a way past one Mr. Simran Takar, which is not going to be the easiest thing in the world to do, as Peter McCann tries to recover his way through the field. Oh, it's a huge issue there, because that's Chemco Basin who's in trouble there. Brian McCarthy got caught up in it as well. Pritchard skirts on through, and Dylan McClements looks like he was caught up in the melee too, because it was his accident that sparked the pandemonium.
Yeah, and just one of those things once again, car spinning around, and oof, that's very tight. Let's go back to that later, because very tight between Pritchard, who is now up to 7th place, and then McClements and Takar and McCann as well.
Wow, it's all there now. McGoldrick trying to get second here off of Rory O'Shea. The prime place to get it done does not work then at Lake Coombe, but now over the hill at Malmedy and down towards Bruchel's corner. How aggressive do you want to be under the brake? Locking the inside front goes McGoldrick through the corner as he looks to go through. Almost scrambling 3 wide behind is this race on for 8th place as Dylan McClements really tries to be aggressive with Takar, and he gets pushed. He gets pushed into the wall there with contact between the pair of them. McClements finds himself now scrambling to get back out on track ahead of Jason Smith, of all people, who has somehow, after a spin on the opening corner, recovered to 10th place. Pritchard down the hill, there's more contact as he goes through. Pritchard is dumped into the wall then, and I think all etiquette has gone out the window in the final stages here. Stewards are going to have a big session to try and deal with, and race 1 was always going to be like this. When you say 10 minutes, get going for the first bit on the night, everyone gets eager. They have no time to settle down as it goes through. McClements is clear, but one Mr. Rory O'Shea, the reigning champion, is not. Here comes Sean McGoldrick down to the inside to take the place, and will do so at a canter. But he will still have that final chicane to defend, because O'Shea's going to fight straight back. Sean McClements is going to come to the line. He is going to take the victory, but for second it's still on. O'Shea runs out of road, and just like that, McGoldrick will take second ahead of Rory O'Shea.
Wow, what a race between those guys, and it's still on. Tahar involved in that earlier incident, a blame-free party, mind you. Let's see what happens here as they come towards the last corner. It's Peter McCann on the inside, taking the position away. Can Tahar get the exit? No, he can't quite. He spins around. He spins around, and here comes Jordan Kelly. Can Jordan Kelly beat him to the line? Yes, he can, and so can so many other drivers. Look at Tahar. He's watching them all go by. He's like stuck in a red light, and everybody else is passing by, and he went from about 8th place all the way down to 14th.
It happens very quickly, but he did not rejoin back on circuit dangerously, which you can give him some credit for. Sean McClements then will take the victory and will win the Battle of Sean's. He has been stuck with Sean McGoldrick for 2 straight seasons, and it looks like it will be a third. He wins by 2.8 seconds. Rory O'Shea will finish third ahead of Graham Melving, with Simon Hutchings 5th, Ian May finishing 6th, with Peter McCann, Jordan Kelly, Jason Smith, and Dylan McClements. Your top 10 as it finishes. Jason Smith leading a huge train. That goes through. But the focus now is going to be over on 15 minutes and now not 10. And this is where you have the dual-pronged focus in these 15 minutes, Aussie, because it's not just about the driver who finishes first and gets the maximum points. It's also about the driver who finishes 8th and gets pole position for race 3.
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. You can look if you're on a positions between 9th and 8th. There's battle, let's say 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, which we see so many times here at Spa-Francorchamps. And you're gonna make sure that you're in the top 2 of that battle, for example, because one position change in the race can mean a difference between 1st and 9th. in the qualifying for the next race. Now, whether I would want to start from the pole at Spa is another question, because you're looking at your mirrors and you see a pack of angry bees, angry wasps heading for you. But it's still a big difference, and it's still gonna play out in that there's not only the fight for the win, but the fight for the 8th place as well at stake in this race. So we're gonna keep our attention on that as they start to grid up for race number 2.
Lest we forget the last drive to start on pole position in this series. Just so happened to spin it at turn 1. So definitely not a great indication. But as these drivers get ready to grid and get ready to put themselves forward, they grid on the same results as race number 1. So that is worth keeping in mind, that there are drivers who are out of position heading into this second race of 3. They got an extra 5 minutes to figure it out, to right the wrongs of the opening race of the season. But here, race 2 of 24. Who has got a magic ticket in their mind? Lights are on here in the Belgian Ardennes. Lights are out, and we are racing once more. Again, covering off to that inside then goes your race leader, Sean McClement. He gets a nice, comfortable run through the opening corner, and they're already bottlenecking up through the middle. It looked like there was a little bit of contact as they went through, but now at full force, Eau Rouge and Radion is going to be very, very dangerous in and around Ian May and Peter McCann, because they've got to figure it out between them, and they look like they are going to funnel it single file as they rush up the hill for the first time through Radion, and now upside down, and a big accident in the back.
You never like to see that. Look at that one car flipping. Is that Jamal flipping in the middle of the track? And there's a more pandemonium further up the road from them. A lot of cars involved. Rich Murphy, at least, was one of those. That was Jamal flipping in the middle of the track in a terrible accident as well. And just goes to show you what happens when the track gets blocked. When it gets blocked on lap number 1, there's nowhere for you to go. You're side by side, you're with cold tires, and it's just, well, it's tapped.
Brilliant stuff there from Rory O'Shea. Gets the pass done on Sean McClemens on the outside of Bruchel's corner. So able to hold that. McGoldrick leads this race. O'Shea in second. It's McClemens now in third. Melvin fourth. Hutchins fifth. Ronan Doherty in 6th position. Was caught out turn 1 as well. Had managed to get back to 10th in race 1. Is already finding himself in the mix. And you're seeing how this slew of cars in the early stages trying to make some progress as Doherty runs wide through the gravel. Can't afford to do that too often in this race. Remember, they do have those 15 instant point limits that they got to keep an eye out on before they get to Penaltyville out there on track. But here comes another look for second. Sean McClemens is not going to sit this one down. He's not going to take losing a position lying down. He's going to go the long way around Blanchimont to get it done, to get the inside at the chicane. And that was, who was that even who found themselves in trouble? That's Hutchings.
Oh, and Graham Melvin got spun around in the bus stop, and he's mounted. Peter McCann is involved in that one. Graham Melvin was mounted. I'm going to see who that was. That was Jordan Kelly, who mounted Graham Melvin. And Jordan Kelly, for the second time this weekend, has been taken out of contention. He actually drives back and tries to make it into the pit lane, and is doing an Austin Powers on the pit lane. So, and blocking actually everybody else up. So let's move back to the action.
Yep, so Jordan Kelly finds out that pit lane is not his friend, and the Formula 4 driver, when it comes to the real world, is having a shocker here tonight when it comes to his work. But for the race lead, Sean McClement is going to find himself a look through. So it looks like McCann's found the wall up the hill at Eau Rouge and Radion, and McClements is finding himself through. Now, I wonder, Ozzy, how much of the dramas we're seeing on the opening laps is down to the fact that it takes 2 to 3 laps to get the tyres into its operating window.
I think that's going to play a big part, as we see a replay of what happened to Kelly here, and he just gets caught out by a spun car, nowhere for him to go, then gets rammed from the rear, ends up mounting the car in front, tries to get away, does happen to get away, realizes I've got no rear wing, so look at what he does. He's turning back, and after that he turned left, made a hairpin turn to the pit lane, but the car wouldn't turn anymore because of wishbone damage, and that's why he ended up blocking the pit lane, and that's what happened to Jordan Kelly. But with cold tires, especially as you don't have an opportunity to get them warmed up before Eau Rouge Radion, it's gonna play a big effect. The car's gonna handle differently. It's gonna feel heavier than the end of last race, and you got drivers beside you on both sides as well, so you can't necessarily do it, get the tires up to heat the way you want to. You can't make those simple tricks. You can't really get into throttle a little bit easier. You can't brake a little bit easier. You have to sort of be more aggressive than you want to be, and on top of that, someone else may not be taking it as easily as they need to. As to Sosva goes to the outside on Blanchimont, doesn't quite get it through, but I think the cars will be up to temps in about 1.5 laps here.
Yeah, and I think De Sosa there took advantage of the fact that Albert Reid was starting to squirrel over the inside curve, comfortably takes that away and moves up into the transfer spot of 8th place. Someone who has been huge in terms of Irish sim racing and sim racing in general on knowing what pedal and wheel set you need to be out there at whatever budget you need to get to. Lawrence De Sosa now is going to try and prove that he's got great pace, and he's got Andrew Murphy just in front as his next focus point as he now looks to go through. There is Rich Murphy fighting in 26th. It's the other Murphy that's out there in just ahead, but here comes a little look then trying to get it done. As that happens, Ronan Doherty is moving up into 2nd position. A comfortable pass on Sean McGoldrick, and McGoldrick is just going to have to wait. He had a Mr. Sparkle car 1 season ago in the GR86s. Now he's got the Valtteri Bottas Duffman.
I absolutely love that, and yeah, that picture was just so great. The man went and won a mountain bike race, a mountain bike hill climb in a Duff costume, and for those who haven't heard the story, of course, and of course, I mean, the winner would get their and their friends' weight in beer as a prize, and he went and donated that to the thirsty spectators. What a man.
What a man indeed, and what a driver he has been over the course of his career. But McGoldrick now is trying to prove that he has his weight, not in beer, but in bronze at this moment in time, because he'll need 2 more positions to make it his weight in gold as he now searches forward, heading towards the halfway stage of race number 2 out there at this moment in time. The top 6 very much equidistant and spread at this point. Every place, though, is going to matter, and it's just been a car in the wall, and that's Ian May, who's up at the top of the hill, who's found himself in a world of trouble and finds himself pointing the wrong way with damage, and heavy damage at that.
Yeah, their accidents are gonna still keep happening. It's no longer due to the cold tires. Right now, it might be that they're carrying some damage from lap 1, which when combined with added trust and added confidence from warmer tires, as we see what happened to Ian May, is gonna result in these things. Let's see what happened to Ian here. So he's coming through the Lecombe chicane. Is he gonna get contact from behind, turning in a little bit tight, and just turning in a little bit too tight? And at the exit of the corner, he was just hitting the curb a little bit, but I think the problem there was rear end losing downforce. And as a result, at the exit of the corner, when you're on throttle already, you're committed to the throttle, that can happen so easily. It's such a light and agile car that you just spin it around and lose it. So nothing the other drivers did there wrong.
That was a change for the race lead. Ronan Doherty is through on Sean McClements. We saw that just in the foreground, a shot. Sean McGoldrick then back through on Rory O'Shea. So 1st and 2nd, 3rd and 4th as they now descend back down the hill once more. So those changes of position important. Ronan Doherty, if he wants to make a championship push, he knows he's got to do one thing and one thing only. Score some consistent points out on track.
As we are gonna see a replay of the race lead, so it's gonna be an easy pass. Well, I say easy pass at the end of the Kemmel Straight, it truly is. He just moved to the outside, driver ahead, and it's just, this is very clever. I like that from Sean McClements. He let him through. And why does he let him through? You might wonder, it's a race lead, why would you let him go easy? Because they don't want Rory O'Shea, they don't want Sean McGoldrick into the mix in this one. You add Kurt Angle to the mix, your chances drastically go down. So it does when you add Rory O'Shea and Sean McGoldrick.
Keenan, if you ever watch this, you know that the Steiner math will be used in sim racing commentary for many years to come. Sean McClements, though, will also have the adage of knowing that that is a teammate battle that he's got at the moment, and Doherty lets him have it back then as they rush in towards the final chicane. So they're working in tandem, trying to make sure that McGoldrick and O'Shea do not reach them. 2.5 seconds worth of margin that they've got, 6 minutes and 9 seconds remaining. That will be 4 laps. It's in terms of the end of this race, and they are trying to work to bridge them away. I'm not sure how much work together is going to make sure that these drivers, 3rd and 4th, are going to catch, how much of them are going to count their losses in terms of this race and look around and go, well, at least we'll have a good position for the reverse.
Yeah, and it's very important here, and you can see O'Shea being a little bit too close to McGoldrick for his liking through Rouge and Vadillon, so he has to get out of the draft early. I think he had to lift through the uphill. He still gets the position change done, but it's gonna be much closer than he would like, and they're not using the draft optimally here. You can see McGoldrick getting back again alongside just a little bit before tucking back into line for the Lecombe corner. Whereas Doherty and McClements are doing a very good job of making sure that they are leaving each other the optimal draft and making them move as late as possible. And most crucially, as we see here, battle for position, that pass gets done. And Tahar getting past Roe Ghost here. But yeah, it's a very important thing in draft tandems to make sure that the guy who is drafting you, the guy behind, gets that optimal draft and bit of contact there for Jason Smith.
Yeah, there's Jason Smith and Jordan Kelly, I believe, who are racing together. Now, these two have had a shocking race so far, or 2 races, haven't had what they've wanted. But these two, in terms of the pace that they both have, Ossian, they should be fighting for the championship. They have that sort of skill, but they're going to put a showcase on for 16th place down the hill, nose to nose, wheel to wheel, arch to arch as they rush up through Rouge and Radillon here. Up the hill, they leave just enough room as they go through, but Jason Smith should have the run up the Kemmel.
They absolutely do. These are 2 very fast drivers and 2 drivers with a big ego too. And that's important. When you're a top leading racing driver of the series, you think you're the fastest. You don't want to lose out to anybody, especially if you're Jason Smith. You don't want to lose out to Jordan Kelly and vice versa. And they're still side by side. Shades of Joni Backman versus Joni Takanen in Lotus 79 5 or 6 years ago. That's the last time I've seen 2 cars go side by side for that long in Spa-Francorchamps. But it is going to be Smith who leads ahead of Kelly, but I don't think we've heard the last of Jordan Kelly in this race.
We've also got the battle on the transfer right now between Albert Reid and Andrew Murphy. They're racing around 7th and 8th place to decide who is going to get what position out there. It also looks like the driver who was in 11th position, Piotr Rogoc, has found himself with a little bit of issues at the final corner, so he's dropped time but not places. But here comes O'Shea once again, looking for that move. He's on the inside, but switches it back to the outside. If he can hold it here, he's got more inside here at Malmedy corner, but he has no drive. Will he have enough room to dive down the hill at Bruxelles corner? He's going to think about it, but on the brakes, Sean McGoldrick, thank you very much.
That was a nice move, and the way McGoldrick took the outside line and made it work into Bruxelles and the braking, he was very committed there. He knew that he has a slight bit more grip into that downhill, very tricky braking. It's a downhill braking zone. And he had more grip, and here we see Jordan Kelly now getting past Jason Smith, who made a bit of a mistake at the bus stop chicane, and I think Smith is gonna come back here, provided he gets a decent enough exit from La Source onto the Kemmel Straight once again. But yeah, good job by McGoldrick there, taking away P number 3, and meanwhile our leaders, Doherty and McClements, are still half a second away from each other. Now that's important because I think the next one, they're gonna run out of clock in the next lap, so this might be the last lap, and I don't think they're gonna have this little bit of truce on anymore here at the last lap. It's gonna be fighting from here on out, but look at Doherty, who got a draft from the lapped cars.
Wow, McGoldrick just holds on to the car as Rory O'Shea now moves to the outside, trying to get this done here for 3rd position. Not quite in the right place to make it happen here. But how long do you want to go? There's a car spun. It's Rich Murphy who's around there on the front. White flag being waved by Barney as they know they are on their final lap of the race. But at the moment, it is going to be Doherty clear on McClements at the front. First, 3rd on, McGoldrick and O'Shea right now are going to be watching each other like a hawk and marking each other out of this race as they rush through Rouge and Radillon for the final time.
Yeah, and O'Shea, he's gonna have the optimal run here. You can just see how he's sucking in that air, and he's going faster and faster. 6th gear now on. Revs are rising. He's looking to the outside. Of course he's looking to the outside. That's the only place that McGoldrick is gonna give him. And McGoldrick, no chance but to tuck him behind. You can see O'Shea moving to the inside as well, under braking, making sure that he's not gonna fall under any last-minute trickery. Now the question is, what can McGoldrick do over the remains of the lap? He has to stay close. I think his next best chance is gonna come to the bus stop chicane, the last corner of the race. Tucking close, get through plunge mode nice in time, and then choose inside or outside.
That's going to be the key. In terms of the front of the field, it's still at 3/4 of a second. Ronan Doherty has played his teammate Sean McClements for a fiddle at this point. He has done something incredible in terms of the way he's just slowly broken away and hasn't really worried about it. For O'Shea in 3rd position, McGoldrick in 4th. There is no guarantees in terms of the way they sit in position. It is very much a race for them where they are thinking about, well, can I get an extra point and will it matter where my grid stall is for the next section that they have going forward? The clock will now officially expire in this race, which will mean that Ronan Doherty is just one chicane away. But here comes Sean McGoldrick looking for 3rd place. Big lunge then over to the inside here, heading towards Blanchemont corner. Will get the run sorted, but this is where O'Shea will fight back. Ronan Doherty will come to the line. He will win race 2 of 3 tonight with a brilliant showcase of driving from 10th on the grid to win. The race on for 3rd will be McGoldrick holding as McClements takes 2nd. It's close to the line, but not enough for Rory O'Shea. Absolutely brilliant at the front, and we've got a real showcase on our hands. Sebastian Scholten finds himself now with a move. He makes a pass up to 14th. That is Wayward Central.
Yeah, it is, and you can see Melvin just there taking notes from Kimi Räikkönen perhaps there on the Pujon corner. Although Kimi did it at La Source in 2009, but yeah, so going very wide indeed, and that would explain a part of it, why he would be going wide. You lose that front downforce ahead of them. Hegarty and Hutchins fighting for 12th place. I would say fighting. Let's see if Hutchins can catch up to him heading into the last corner. I don't think there's quite enough for Hutchins. He's getting close, but it's gonna have to be an almighty dive. And oh no! Wow! So Hegarty made a mistake at the last corner, and Simon Hutchins says, "Thank you very much, I'll take that."
The Father Ted car falls in a little bit of trouble. Sean Hegarty will miss out then compared to Simon Hutchins. How important will those points be late on in the season? Let's get confirmation of results then here from race number 2. Ronan Doherty picks up the result. He wins in 15 minutes and 23 seconds. He wins by a margin of 7/10 over his teammate Sean McClements, with Sean McGoldrick, the other Sean, finishing off in 3rd. Rory O'Shea would manage 4th, with Dylan McClements 5th, and Lawrence de Sosua in 6th position, with Andrew Murphy 7th, and the pole sitter for race 3, it will be Albert Reid. He manages that by a gap of about 6.5 seconds. Phelan Pritchard's had a fantastic run of racing here tonight. He is in 9th with his results, as Simran Takar would round out the top 10. So, some brilliant action then that has brought itself forward. We do have drivers rushing forward then to get themselves an opportunity to chat, and we will take an opportunity to chat with them right now. First and foremost, over down into the pit lane, Oshin Puhako's rushed down, and he's found himself with the race 2 winner, Ronan Doherty.
Ronan, what an excellent race for you, and a little bit of team tactics as well. So how much communication, and from which point on did you decide that, yeah, I'm gonna work with Sean here?
Yeah, well, whenever I caught Sean, really, we were just talking to each other, saying, let's use this draft to build a gap behind. It was actually his idea, and it worked. Unfortunately, I mean, the last lap, we were gonna battle on the last lap for the win, but unfortunately, I think Sean it was held up slightly by a bike marker, and we sort of figured it worked anyway. Between the two of us, me getting taken out in race 1, I probably needed the win a bit more than him, and he still gets solid points with his win in race 1 as well.
Yeah, it was an excellent job by both of you guys. Excellent job indeed. So tell us about tell us about your race 1, just really briefly. You started from 2nd place, you got taken out, ended up finishing 10th. You started 10th here, ended up finishing 1st. So is that sort of how Spa is going? Is it going to be a battle of attrition, more or less?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, it was just unfortunate Jason let up the tires and sort of collected me and Connor, and that, yeah, give me a meatball. I was dead last, got back up to 11th. Somehow, I'm not quite sure. There's just a lot of incidents. And yeah, I mean, look, it's unfortunate. I mean, and Teflon had maybe 3 or 4 tenths on the field. This track just suits me, but it's one of those tracks where it doesn't really matter because of the slipstream, and there's going to be 3 wide and stuff like that. So it makes for good racing.
Yeah, we're absolutely looking forward to the future. Good luck on that, Ronan.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you. And next up, we'll have Jack Sperry, I believe, who has found himself with his teammate.
I have. I've got Sean McClements up here in the commentary box with me. Now, Sean, a massive statement win for you in race number 1, managing to break the draft and get away. Race 2, a little bit different. You and your teammate deciding to play those games with each other, and ultimately he was able to start breaking away ever so slightly with a bit of help from the back markers. For you, Sean, you look at what Team DDR has done. You've got 2 victories out of 2, and not only that, you are driving with so much confidence. How important has that been for you to bring this initial start to the season into an absolute fervor?
Yeah, it's a brilliant return back to RTA after the season missed. It's really, for me, it's brought up my confidence a good bit for this championship ahead. I thought with being out with work, commitments and stuff, that I might be slightly off the pace, but as it turns out, I'm up at the top. So yeah, it's great for Team DDR, and this is what we started, what we're going to be doing this season. The rest of the season, we should hope for similar results.
Well, you start race 3 in 7th position, and we've seen through the 10-minute race and the 15-minute race that dramas aren't a million miles away. Do you feel like the new format has basically got everyone amped up and a lot more aggressive than they have been in previous seasons?
Yeah, the new format, it definitely, people are going to start going for the moves and stuff, especially in the 10-minute race, so that they can set themselves up in the 15-minute race for reverse roll for the 3rd race. And yeah, everyone's just sort of bringing out their anger side and trying to overtake when it's maybe not there, and trying to go for the move that's, you know, not possible in that sort of way. Like,
that certainly can happen, but we'll let you get prepared then for race number 3, which is just about under a minute away. Sean McClements there joining us and getting a win and a 2nd as the opening 2 races of his championship have brought themselves into view. Ossian, 20 minutes in this final race of the night. They know how important it is to score those points. This is the last chance, Bastion, that drivers have to salvage a week that they have. They know they're allowed, though, 1 drop week between weeks 1 and 7. So that is always something to keep in the back of the mind. If it hasn't gone well for them this week, the last thing they're really wanting is to mark that down as a drop. That's the last thing in the back of the mind that they're hoping for.
Yeah, and you look at guys, especially like Jordan Kelly and Jason Smith. Jordan Kelly, he's got an 8th place from Heat 1. He's got a 16th place from Heat 2. He's going to be starting 16th on the feature. Jason Smith, 21st, 17th. He's going to be starting 17th on the feature. Those are guys who, as you said earlier on, would be fighting normally for the championship, would be fighting for race wins. They've both been mainstays on the victory lane, on the top step of the podium as we're in Europe. And right now they're absolutely nowhere. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they manage throughout these next 20 minutes to use that pace for their advantage, but at the same time to also hold themselves back enough so they can make it there in one piece to have a chance to use that pace.
Number 25, Albert Reid then is your pole sitter. He will have the weight of the world behind him here in race number 3 with Andrew Murphy, Lawrence de Sosa and Dylan McClement, the initial top 4. You've had some fantastic stars here tonight, you know, Shea, McGoldrick, McClement and Ronan Doherty. They are 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th. The rest of the field will charge. Let's get ready though. Race 3, green flag, 20 minutes underway. Slow start off at the front of the grid then from Andrew Murphy. He gets swarmed as they go towards the last source hairpin for the first time. Held on the inside, but the Sosua even better. He will lead Potato Nation forward and up into the race lead as Albert Reid will try and scrap back at him here towards Eau Rouge and Radion as they now look to try and fan and scrap. Here comes the look around the outside. No grip there for Albert Reid. He'll have to take a slowdown penalty and it will be oh so brutal up the Kemmel.
It's gonna be absolutely, because you have no delta time, so he's gonna have to slow down a lot. He's gonna potentially drop outside of the top 10, but we are 3 wide for the lead. You can see on the inside, Sean McGoldrick is trying to make a move, and he does make the move against O'Shea, and O'Shea has to fall back. Dusosva now 3rd place, then it's McClements, and McClements, it's Sean leading Dylan in terms of that brotherhood battle. Murphy, Reed, Doherty, Smith, and Jordan Kelly. And look at Jason Smith and Jordan Kelly. They're already on the outskirts of top 10, 9th and 10th at the halfway point of lap number 1.
And troubles for Phelan Pritchard. He finds himself in the gravel then over at Bruchel's corner, Malmedy corner. So that puts him in the wrong position, but look at it go for the race lead. Now for 4th position, side by side, De Sosua having to scrap with Dylan McClements, and young Dylan McClements, who has an amazing turn of cadence. Lest we not forget, he only joined iRacing 3 months ago, maybe if that. So he finds himself through, he gains another place and finds himself up into 4th. But that's the view on the back of the Quickie Mart, on the back of the Duff Machine of Sean McGoldrick. O'Shea is there, so too Sean McClements and the Team DDR car, but it is going to be frantic from this point onwards.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And just look at those guys side by side, McClements and O'Shea. Absolutely brilliant battle, and surely they have to get themselves sorted out at some point in time. You can see number 10, Sean McClements, 1st and 2nd here in this race and moves to the inside. What a brilliant move. He calculated that so well, had complete trust that the guys would hold on the trajectory they were looking at, and takes the race lead. That was brilliant from Sean, but that's only half the battle as we have an absolute pandemonium behind us. So that's the final battle from 300 that just has took place on the last corner of the track.
Scholzen's involved, Ragotch, I think, was caught up in it. Ian May found himself there, but now we find ourselves at the front once again, because McClements and McGoldrick, it's not going to stop here at Eau Rouge and Radion. They're going to scrap up the hill, and just like that, McGoldrick finds the way, but Rory O'Shea needs an angle here. If he wants to move through, he's going to try and sit in the drum, but he's boxed. You're not going to get through. You're in a box, a pit maneuver. Here comes Dylan McClements. He doesn't want anything to do with it just yet, so that will bring Sean McClements to fight Sean McGoldrick. Top 2 take each other out.
No! The Duff Machine doesn't prove to be tough enough here. And that's Sean McGoldrick dropping way down the order. And as well, you can just see him trying to get back onto the track. Now, let's see about the damage. And let's see what happened there later on. But that was just a little bit too rough of racing, to be honest, in lap number 2. Guys, you have 20 minutes. It's lap number 2. I get it, it's entertaining, but you don't need to put it all on the line so early in the race. And that's gonna cost. And man, McClements gets run up from behind at Pujon. And was that
Kelly and Smith?
Yeah.
Their horror nights continue, and that is Dylan McClements. Sean McClements there, trying to redress the position back to Sean McGoldrick, but he kept on the racing line. That was always going to be the issue. He was trying to scrub the speed, and because of that, the massive difference through double gauche, which is the most committed corner in terms of G-force out there on track sustained, that was always going to be a drama, because you can never lift out of there in open wheel cars like these.
No, you can't, and those guys were in such a hurry to make it through that corner without losing too much time behind the wrecked car and behind the damaged car, I would say, of Sean McClements, and as a result of that, it's just something where you get a little bit too hasty, you get in a little bit too much of a rush to make that move in a safe manner, and instead of losing like half a second of time, you lose everything, absolutely everything. Ronan Doherty is still in the lead battle. You can see McCann coming into the pit lane. Peter McCann hasn't been his weekend either, but O'Shea, Doherty, and De Souza, as well as Dylan McClements, are now the 4 who are looking to break away here and will be breaking away at this point in time. But what can this man do? Conor Melia, remember, he was very good in qualifying. That's the thing, he was third best in qualifying, then had a horror run of results, and now has made it from 19th place all the way to 5th here in this race.
And now for the race lead, there's the move. Ronan Doherty is back there again. It has taken him all of 5 minutes to move back up into the race lead from 8th place on the grid. Nothing Rory O'Shea can do about that for the moment, but he'll try and hang in as long as he can to stay in range. Dylan McClement's up to 3rd as well. He's past Lawrence de Sosua. And let's not forget, Conor Melia started 19th on the grid in this race 3 and is already up into 5th. And he was trying to communicate with Simon Hutchins saying, let me go, we can work together, we can try and catch these drivers in front. It's only 1.7. Kelly making a pass, moving up to 22nd.
Yeah, and that's the communication you underlined there. It's so important when you're a fast driver trying to make it through the field. I get it, everybody wants to fight for position, but having been in that position where I'm maybe down in 20th or so, 15th or so, I know I have the pace to fight for top 5, maybe a top 3 position. You just don't want those guys to risk it all fighting with you. You don't want to lose time. That is the most important thing. And it is faster for the slower driver as well to tuck in behind that faster driver and utilize their draft, follow them through, try to see where they're losing time, improve in that regard, but tuck behind them and in turn maybe improve their position as well. But that's not how a racing driver necessarily thinks. A racing driver sees the driver coming from behind you as a red flag. A racing driver wants to race, but sometimes you have to forget about being a racing driver and start being a thinking driver. So I absolutely get why Melia was trying to communicate that. At the same time, we'll have to wait and see how far Melia can climb. He's now seeing that the gap is over 1 second ahead of him. I think he might need a little bit of help from the guys in front. Maybe McClements and de Sosua start fighting for the 3rd place. Maybe they let the leading duo go. That way Melia can maybe rise to the podium. We'll have to wait and see. Here's the leading duo.
Here is, and it is Rory O'Shea who's trying to move back to the point compared to himself and Ronan Doherty. Move over to the right-hand side up the hill. No argument about it. He will comfortably pull back into line and he will gain the race lead once again as he moves on through Lecombe, the left, the right, then the left, and then the next right of Malmedy, up over the crest of the hill, the highest point on the circuit before you descend, back down once again through Bruchel's corner. And these two have one thing in mind: keep Dylan and Lawrence out of the battle for the race lead. This is all about game theory right now, Aussie, and they know that 1st or 2nd is a lot more easier to control, and they don't need to battle now, because if they battle now, it's 1st, 2nd, 3rd or 4th. That is not what they want in a game theory optimized race right now.
Exactly, and we already used that. We've been using that a lot, especially in tracks like this, in cars like this, where it's all about the draft in terms of lap times, as Sean McGoldrick makes it up to 8th place. So the thinking essentially in that game theory is that when you're in a leading duo like this and you don't have anyone else involved, the worst you can finish in, barring an accident, and you always bar an accident in these calculations, is 2nd. Even if you lose the fight, you're gonna finish 2nd. That's gonna be good. But if you let those guys catch you up 3rd, 4th, maybe 5th, maybe even 6th, you're gonna, if you lose that battle, you have a lot more variables, and you lose that battle, you're gonna be down in 4th or 5th instead of 2nd place. That's less points. So you see here Doherty and O'Shea, they're fighting each other at the end of these long straights, sure, but they're also sort of kinda in a mutual understanding that, hey, a pass with 11 minutes to go is not going to decide the race win. They don't need to fight each other tooth and nail right now. What they need is to build up that gap and make sure that when that fight goes on and when that push comes to shove on the last lap of this race, it's gonna be just these two fighting for the lead.
There'll be another look here up the hill. Rory O'Shea will once again prove that he has got the legs on this straight and will do it on the Kemmel once more. There is scrapping though behind because Lawrence de Sosua is trying to move up into 3rd place. They are losing too much time from a much coordinated front of the group, but McClements is not getting the memo. He's going to go too wide and he holds the place stationary at that moment, and suddenly there is Conor Melia there in 5th place, and he has his eyes set on a podium, and I wouldn't put it past him. It looks like someone's gone off in the background there as they've gone through, and it is Sean McGoldrick.
Wow, so McGoldrick, his dreadful race number 3 is just continuing, and he has no rear wing, and he's gonna have to park that race car on the outside of Lecombe, and that's a shame for the driver who finished second in first race, who finished third in the second race, and now he's out. He still gets decent points, but not as many as he wanted. Robin Truswell as well, he seems to have found trouble. But yeah, McClements, Dusova as well. Now they have Melia for company, a very fast Conor Melia, who gotta be frustrated that he hasn't had the chance to use his pace this race weekend. Well, not too much. He was third fastest in qualifying, then absolutely doldrums in terms of points. Now he has a chance to fight for the podium. Is he gonna give it up? Absolutely not.
But his steering wheel is pretty much on the Matapia for his first race of the night. Bosh! That was how it went for him, and he's certainly hoping he doesn't find that again. He's certainly searching, as Lawrence de Sosa searches, moves to the outside of a very defensive Dylan McClement on the brakes. He locks up the front, and just like that, he's going to find himself a way around. Then is Lawrence de Sosa, forces a mistake out to the young talent, who was maybe over-defending in terms of his race, and he's not going to lose one position, he's going to lose two as Albert Reid behind spins it.
And that happens so easily when you break into such a slow corner, because these are downforce cars. These are very light cars, very agile cars. They got these skinny little tires, and they got a very stiff setup. As a result of that, the mechanical grip of these cars is not much at all. Let's talk more about it later as we see a battle between McClements and Melia heading onto the Kemmel Straight.
Yeah, so Conor Melia now looking to try and push through. Jordan Kelly sets the fast lap of the race. Trades almost happening at the front. Ronan Doherty and Rory O'Shea are racing it out for the victory. McClement cannot find the pass then on Conor Melia, who moves himself into that fourth place and is now trying to shadow through that section. But go back to that point, Ossian, on what makes these cars difficult, as we got 3 wide up the Kemmel, with Sean McClements trying to recover in 16th position. Jason Smith is along with him for the ride as well. And tyre to tyre on the straight, not once, but twice as they now go through. It's going to be argy-bargy between them. These two don't want to give it up, either of them. And out to the outside, bang! Sean McClements catches another, and just like that, in the barriers, his race 3 is in jeopardy.
So, yeah, going back to that point further on, but first, let's talk about what happened there between Sean McClements and alongside him was Jason Smith. So they were sort of fighting it out between each other. And even if these are open-wheeler cars, they were kind of sending the message that, hey, I want to push you, I want to push you. And Felon Pritchard was an innocent party, just trying to follow them through. Well, Sean McClements got a little bit wide, exiting Lacombe on the left-hander and hit the curb and just collected Pritchard, who was absolutely innocent in that. So you have to feel for Felon Pritchard. But yeah, so you can see they're coming to the bus stop. And we get a replay first before that, and you can see them just look at the car number 10 on the outside. So they were making a little bit of contact. That's fine. They knew what they were doing. Especially Jason Smith knew what he was doing. But then McClements, trying to maximize his exit, has to avoid at the last second, loses it over the curb, which can happen so easily. Even to a driver of his caliber, these are not locked differentials, so the outside tire just spins a lot faster, sends the car around, and there you go.
To get back to that point, Austin, that we were trying to get to,
yes.
The key here with this car is mechanical grip. When you don't have the downforce, that's where this car gets scary.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So when you break into the corner, the faster you go, the more downforce you create. So that's the basic principle in these open-wheeler cars. The slower you get, the more you start to rely on the mechanical grip instead. And the transition into the corner becomes far different in slow corners, where you have to slow down the car, the tires lock up so easily when you have less grip that you can utilize. So when you come into the corner, the proper application of the brake pedal is super important, especially with heated tires. And combine that with the turn-in that can happen so fast with these agile cars, it's like treading on a knife edge. So oftentimes see that at places at Spa-Francorchamps, where you have the largest variation between sector delta times, and in individual corners, corner delta times are gonna be the bus stop chicane and the first corner, which are gonna be the 2 slowest corners on the track. Pretty much any guy can do Lecombe or the Pujon corners within 1/10 of a second each and every lap. That's the sort of thing that you have in the back of your mind. But the variations in the slow corners and the difference between getting it turned just right on that knife edge of grip, and having to sort of correct just a little bit can mean 1 or 2 tenths lost easily in the slow corners. Whereas you would usually think that it's the fast corners where you have most time to gain, but that's not it. Not
and
here.
Sometimes as Ronan Doherty absolutely flies forward into the race lead, Spinner in front of them, then as they went through would be Sebastian Scholten, who finds himself then pointing the wrong way. The issue that you sometimes have though with these drivers though, in terms of, well, how do I find more pace? This is one of the few cars that you turn around, you look at the person that you're practicing with, and the answer is actually just drive faster.
Yeah, absolutely. So just go faster. That is usually a better good trick. So there's a running joke in the Finnish iRacing community said by the former World Championship driver Petteri Kotovaara originally, when you got a new driver in and they're struggling for pace a little bit, and why am I, getting taken out in races? Why do I struggle in race conditions? As we see O'Shea taking the lead back again. And he had 2 tips for the drivers. First of all, APQ, which is in English would be driver better qualifying. DBQ. And the second tip, if that doesn't work out, buy a better computer. But I think in this case, it would be more like, look at the driver, look what they're doing differently, and just have trust in that car. It's gonna grip so much in high-speed conditions, but if you and it's gonna have so little grip in low-speed conditions. So it's strange where you have to be very aggressive in these fast corners to trust the car, because the faster you go, the more grip it will have. Up to a certain point, of course, but at the same time you have to be very careful in these low speed corners.
You absolutely do. They are on as well the same set. This is fixed, so because it is a fixed series, they have the same equipment. There is no excuses that my setup is worse than the car in front of me. You've got the same setup, and you can certainly sense the way that Conor Malia is driving right now here, Ossian, that he is dancing with the rear of the car. That rear is always out to an angle, and I think he's being able to play with the differences in that down or in the grip that he's able to extract out of the car better than what Lawrence de Sosua can.
Oh yeah, and de Sosua, mind you, he is in the dirty air here. It's not going to be too much, but dirty air, turbulent air, essentially it means the front has less downforce, meaning that the car is going to understeer a little bit more. But listen to him as he comes to the braking zone here. So de Sosua has done that a couple of times. He, at the last second, he turns into a lower gear than would necessarily be optimal. And that means it's gonna rise the revs of the engine, and it's also gonna make those rear wheels just the car turn a little bit better heading into the corner. So for example, if it's a 4th gear corner, he brakes, slows down into 3rd gear, and then immediately flicks up to 4th gear as he's in the acceleration phase, trying to get that car turned in a little bit better when he's behind another driver. So those are just the little tricks that you have to know in these open-wheeled cars in order to manipulate the circumstances and to minimize the time lost behind another car in the corners.
Ronan Doherty back to the lead with 1 and a bit, or sorry, 1.5, I should say, laps to go. Rory O'Shea, at what point do you take the gloves off and start fighting at every corner? That's the next question that Rory's going to have to deal with. Down the hill at Bruxelles, Ronan Doherty looking at back-to-back victories here, races 2 and 3, really try and mastermind that championship. With the dirty air, is able to pull that back out to 4.5 seconds. But is now trying to break away and do what he possibly can. It looks like Lawrence de Sosua has found himself a long way through Conor Malia as well. So those two are now really trying to scrap, and they're getting a little bit chippy on the radio with each other too. So de Sosua now back up into 3rd. Malia wants to try and race this through. He doesn't want McClements in the party. No, sir. Looks to the outside at Fania trying to get it done. Not often you see one there.
No, not often at all. It's not a prime overtaking opportunity, but he saw his chance to the outside, and I think he was looking at how will de Sosua react into that move. Will he go defensive? Will he just try to fight him off at the last second? We'll have to wait and see. In any case, Malia now has the opportunity to get past him here, but does he do so or does he wait? You know what? I would wait.
I think he'd wait as well. Rory O'Shea is not waiting. He's going to the outside, brakes slightly later. Doherty covers it off, and they're playing chicken with each other. Who wants the move? And they don't want the lead. Neither of them want the lead, and they're going to start playing games with each other here as they come towards the white flag. Ronan Doherty is going to play the lift game better. He will lift off and say, Rory, I'm going to make you sweat for this final lap. They are fighting behind for third place. They've given themselves the time to do so. De Soswa currently ahead of Melia, but you got McClement still there and Jamal Gandor waiting in the wings in C.
Yeah, I think Rory missed a little bit of a trick there. He should have lifted off a little bit before Rouge in order to make sure Doherty is as close as possible through that corner to minimize the draft, but he still gets the pass done early on here, so O'Shea can tuck in right back into the draft if he wants to, and there's a behind him.
It's Lawrence De Soswa who finds himself around on the final lap, and a big crash up at Eau Rouge and Radion. You expected that would happen. It's caught Malia in it. McClements now finds himself up in third place. Those could be huge points come the end. Rory O'Shea, though, still searching for an opportunity to get through, and he's waited for the final lap to make something happen on Ronan Doherty. Doherty maybe made the pass a bit early, maybe should have waited here for that middle sector. We'll catch a quick replay of what happened to Lawrence De Soswa and Conor Malia heading up through Eau Rouge and Radion. He tries to find the room. It's not there. A heavy springboard up the hill on the most dangerous corner in sim racing and racing history, Eau Rouge and Radion. You have to be absolutely alongside if you ever want to make a move there. Ronan Doherty finds himself with 4/10 of a second, 5/10, 6/10 of a second. He's having a fantastic middle sector of this lap, and Rory O'Shea needs a minor miracle if he's now going to try and stop Ronan Doherty from going back to back. When it comes to race number 3, Rory must throw the kitchen sink at this. There's a little bit of traffic that might help in the form of Phelan Pritchard, which might keep Ronan Doherty at bay. Gap down to 3/10 of a second, down to 2/10 of a second. This is going to be an almighty lunge if you're going to get this done, Rory. And answer on the brakes is they're both pretty even as they get it sorted. Ronan Doherty, side by side almost as they come to the end, will hold what is a brilliant double here with races 2 and 3. O'Shea threw everything at him, but the reigning champion knows that he was beaten tonight.
Yeah, and something that tells about the closeness of the finish and the nature of these races is that Barney is standing behind a catch fence waving that flag, and I think that is the absolutely correct decision from Barney there to save himself. Jordan Kelly gets the 10th place on the last corner as Andrew Reid just missing the breaking point. We have seen that so many times. Almost happened to our race winner Doherty as well on the last lap. Here we see Lawrence finishing without a rear wing, and tell you what, that is underrated. That is so difficult to get a lap of Spa-Francorchamps done without a rear wing. You have no downforce on the rear of that car, nothing to help you, just a mechanical grip of the rear, which is not a lot as we well established in this race after a couple of tries. So the fact that he was able to even finish that car, lowly 15th as it may, is an achievement in and as itself. And here's the Duffman, unlucky here on the feature race.
Yeah, very unlucky. He'll be the penultimate car over the line, number 23, and he will feel opportunity missed in race number 3 to get the result that he so very much felt that he could possibly get and deserved. He has led laps over the course of the racing, and Duffman is going to have to play the patience card and know that there are races on the horizon where he can go and score those points. There are races on the horizon where he knows that there are going to be better chances to get what is needed. In terms of where he's looking now, he's looking a week from today, he's looking at Interlagos, and he is looking and hoping that he has a real ability to challenge for that championship. There will be a lot of key players of the game that he'll be with and around, but 23rd, not what the doctor ordered there, number 23. Let's step aside, though, for one moment when it comes to the Global SimRacing Channel. There'll be post-race coverage to you from Spa-Francorchamps after this. It was always going to be about strategy and who you found yourself dancing with. Of course, you want to be the star, but who could tango with who? It was Ronan Doherty, though, and a second victory out of 3 here tonight. He wins by a margin of 1 3/4 of a second over Rory O'Shea, who ended up in that second place. Dylan McClements would round out the podium in third, ahead of Jamal Gandor, profiteering off of an incident on the final lap of the race, with Simon Hutchins and Brian McCarthy also gaining in 5th and 6th positions. Conor Melia would be one of the drivers involved in that, with Lawrence de Sosua. That's what dropped him back down into 7th position come the end of the race, just ahead of the Father Ted car of Sean Hegarty in 8th place. Alexander Mielken, who had in the opening race tonight a disconnection, was able to rise back through the field in races 2 and 3 and end up in 9th position for the results, as Jordan Kelly will be ruining his opportunities. 10th place only for him.
Albert Reid gonna finish 11th after that last corner incident, ahead of Ian May and Chan Wing Fei. Peter McCann 14th, not an ideal weekend for him either. Lawrence Dusova 15th after fighting for a podium in this race. Robin Truswell, Rich Murphy and Cem Kulbenson finishing 18th. Then you got Simran Takhar 19th and Piotr Logos rounding out your top 20.
So the rest of these drivers are going to be a long way down in terms of finishing their laps or find themselves as retirees. And they include Andrew Murphy, Eric Couillard, Sean McGoldrick, big. And look at the names down here. McGoldrick, you got Sean McClements, Phelan Pritchard found himself in troubles. You then have Sebastian Scholten, Jason Smith, who had a shocker here tonight and will be just thinking, right, get to Interlagos. I've booked my plane to Brazil. I need a lot more. Graham Melvin, 28th position, did not take to the start of that final race overall. We do have drivers here who have the opportunity to talk to us right now. None more so than Ronan Doherty, who goes back to back with races 2 and 3 and joins me now here in the commentary box. Ronan, that is about as brilliant as you were needing that to be, getting yourself in the victory. But talk us through that final lap, because it looked like you and Rory decided that you wanted to play a game of chicken on terms of who wanted to go to the front of the field.
Yeah, look, whoever's second in that going to the Camel Straight's probably going to win. That's the odds. And we both knew that. I mean, I was in second gear halfway down the start-finish straight, really. And yeah, but yeah, like I knew we had such a big gap behind us. We weren't going to hold each other up that much. And I realised everyone was talking about this 5-6 tenths back for the toe, but I realised it was actually better to be about 3 or 4 in the middle of that race. And I lined myself up, and I got ahead of him before the braking zone. And the last corner had a sketchy moment. Ran wide in the first part of the bus stop, and sort of had to collect it in the second part, but it was enough to get the win.
Enough to get the win. You have 2 victories over the course of the opening week. You look around at the people who were expecting to challenge here over the course of the racing. Your Jordan Kellys, your Jason Smiths, who we both know, and everyone knows who's watched this series before, just how good those talents are. To have such a mixed up field and for you to be right at the forefront of that, how crucial has that been for you to get off the season with a great start, not having to worry about the drop week?
Yeah, well, look, that's probably the first time in the year I've been able to do an RTA series and do any sort of the test night before the last night everyone goes on testing. So I just knew I had to attack this series, and look, I have a good chance of winning it, but so do all the other lads. Rory's even there too as well. Don't count him out. So yeah, look, it was crucial to get a first good round, of course. Unfortunately, we couldn't do the hat trick because of the first race, but these things happen sometimes.
They certainly do. In terms of great battling, though, it's another amazing track to get it done next week. Interlagos, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, look, I like that track too. Lots of heavy braking zones and nice twisty bits, but you have the big long straights also, so it's possible to stay in the toe there and stuff. But yeah, look, if my pace is as good as it was here in Spa, I'll be happy enough. So.
No, we certainly know how happy you can be. The floor is yours, though, Ronan. Anybody you'd like to thank?
Yeah, well, I'd just like to thank anyone or everyone that organises the series. A lot of work going in behind the scenes, and it's great. There's great drivers in it, but there's also a race for people of all skill level down the field as well. So thanks to those guys, and also thanks to you lads for the coverage tonight, and I hope you've enjoyed the racing.
No worries at all there. Ronan Doherty picking up 2 victories here and starting to spearhead a way forward. Walking down the paddock, Oshin Puhaka, I believe, has found himself tuned in with the driver who finished second, that being Rory O'Shea.
Rory, what an excellent result for you. Starting off where you finished last season, the GR86 Challenge champion with 6 wins last time around at RTA. Now we're in a much different car. You finished 3rd, 4th and 2nd. Tell us about your races.
Yeah, they were incredibly intense, but like I think that was all due to the drag and the slipstream that we were all getting off each other. But it made it so intense for the whole race. Like I felt a bit disappointed at the end, because the end of each 3 races, because I lost out positions that I probably could have gained. But ultimately, I'm actually fairly happy. I kept it clean, which a lot of other people didn't.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask you about next, because you had a lot of drivers who didn't have clean weekends. Drivers like Jason Smith, drivers like Jordan Kelly, for example, talking about the championship favorites here perhaps. Sean McClemens getting crashed out in the final race, or crashing out in the final of these 3 rounds as well. So what was sort of your approach? What was your secret going into this race? Was it just being a little bit more careful than anybody else, or did you have some inside information on how the races are going to play out at Spa?
No insider information really. I'd say it was obviously going to be a little bit messy with the drag and the amount of cars on track, but I think it was mainly just luck. I could have very easily got taken out in the incidents in the first and the 3rd race that I was very near, but I just managed to get through them. And I don't think there was any skill there. I think I just got lucky, really.
Well, I mean, I don't believe there is such thing as a luck in sim racing. I believe it's mostly down to skill. Even accident evasion is a skill, so don't be so hard on yourself. So, okay, tell us about that last battle with Ronan. We heard Ronan's point of view on that one, how you guys battled it out. Did you also believe that whoever's going to be ahead of in the Camel Straight is essentially after Camel Straight is going to win this race, or did you have perhaps a trump card you didn't get to play?
I wasn't so sure, because in my battles with Sean McGoldrick in the previous 2 races, I was ahead after the Camel Straight, and I lost both times. So I kind of thought I should have been behind, and maybe I could get him down the last straight, but I just dropped out of the slipstream on the very last lap, and I just wasn't able to make a move on him, because I thought I would have been able to, but through the last sector I got about 6/10 behind, and I was just too far.
Okay, so yeah, well, we saw what happened there, but still an excellent result for you, and I'm sure it sets you up for a great race in weeks' time at Interlagos, Autodromo Jose Carlos Pace. So, Rory O'Shea, thank you very much for the interview, and well, as Jake would say, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I just want to shout out to my team, Hyper SimRace City, and all the guys there, and sponsor SimRace City, and as well as the RTA guys for just putting on another good championship.
Yeah, the pleasure is entirely ours. Thank you, Rory.
No problem, thank you.
Next up, we got Jake Sperry, and he is gonna talk to a man who is the younger brother of a man who we so often have talked to before.
Yeah, we got Dylan McClements here, who's with us right now. Now, Dylan, in terms of how your race 3 sort of constructed itself, for you seeing the top 2 break away while you had to defend, were you in a position where you felt like you absolutely had no choice but to defend? Or was that for you just a scenario of, okay, I'm in a battle, you know, everything's going around, everything's crazy? What sort of went through your head as you had to start defending quite aggressively over the course of the racing?
I just focused on defending. I knew I wasn't going to catch up to the top 2, so I was trying to just keep a position towards the end, but it didn't work out. But in the end, they both spun off, which was quite lucky for me, and to grab that P3 back.
For you, it's been a race of improvements, a night of improvements. You started 12th, moved up to 9th, then over to 5th, and then from 4th on the grid, you moved up to 3rd position. So in terms of building an understanding with this Formula 3 car, out here on iRacing. What has been your understanding in terms of getting the car, learning how to drive it, and learning to put the pace into the car?
Just through time, each session you gain more confidence, and you would gain that another 10th or 2 each session or so. And through them races, I just gained my confidence through them races. Like, I wasn't so confident at the start, but at the end I was trying to push myself and try to get the best out of me.
So you're getting the best out through the races as the night develops. Will that be a similar story though when you head to Interlagos 1 week from today? And how important is it having someone like Sean in and around you that you can tap into his knowledge and his experience almost seemingly every day?
It's quite helpful with Sean. I've gained loads of hints just asking for help, and he showed me what to do and stuff. So a big thanks to him.
Well, the floor is yours, Dylan. If you've got anybody more that you'd like to thank, you've got yourself a podium and the floor is yours.
My brother Sean, my family, you guys, and the people at RTA.
No worries at all there. Thank you very much for joining us. Dylan McClement, a third place come the end of racing, but that is going to do it for our action here tonight at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. We've had some brilliant sim racing action bring itself into the fold, and we couldn't have done anything more than just watch some incredible sim racing take shape. Want to thank the team who's helped get this one done here tonight, from Ozzy, from Daniel, and as well from Dougie. You can catch all of the Global SimRacing Channel stuff on our YouTube, on our X, Twitter, whatever it's called now, and as well as our Instagram, as well as Facebook. Here are some of the special thanks we go to, all of the work that's done that gets this show to you, as well as the music from June Lalonde. You can catch her stuff on her Bandcamp. Make sure that you make that happen as quickly as you possibly can. In terms of when we're racing, next week we head off to Interlagos. That will be a huge round, the second round overall, and it is going to be one of those circuits that either you're quick or you're not. It just has that sort of skill that goes from it. But before you have to focus about that, we have the return of 4 Drink Friday. It comes back in the Pro 4 trucks. If you haven't seen it, you will absolutely be in love with it. That will be coming to you at 9:45 Eastern. So make sure you check that out on Friday the 25th. That will be coming from the WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. But in terms of sim racing action, with Ronan Doherty's double putting himself at the forefront, DDR in full control. Race clean, race hard, and we'll see you at Interlagos.
Yeah.